you find CCNN holding a bit of a market share that's perhaps not totally within the grip of Dangote Cement. And that means that, look, one good news can just spread across.
Yes, it can have a ripple effect across the sector. Like I mentioned, with the plan for to increase capital expenditure in the 2017 budget, it means there's going to be a lot of construction that's going to be going on. We probably won't see just one of these cement companies get all the contracts. So it'll probably spread across the various companies that operate in that sector, and it's generally positive for the sector.
We talk about the cement. What about the construction? We have a few of them in our market, just a handful. Julius Berger, of course, the kingpin in that space, and maybe just only one or two others. Do you think the construction folks would also, one way or the other, benefit from this?
Yes, they should benefit from it, even though Julius Berger that you mentioned is actually down year to date. But I think once some of the projects start to kick off, we should see sentiment towards this stock actually improve.
If I've been holding Dangote Cement, Lafarge Africa, CCNN, Ashaka Cement over a period, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, maybe 10 years, and I see this news and price move, how soon do you think perhaps it's reasonable for me to say, look, I'm going to say, hey, folks, write me a check?
Well, it all depends on what the investor's investment horizon is. So if you're in for just capital gains and you've sort of made up your mind, okay, I just want like a 20% gain. Once you've made that your 20%, you're willing to sell out. But clearly, there's still potential for gains. So it's all dependent on the individual investor and what your appetite for risk is. Obviously, the longer into the future the investment stays, the higher the risk. But again, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. So, you know, it's all dependent on the individual investor.
If I'm asking Afrinvest to write me a check and sell down my portfolio or for the industrial goods for cement companies, are there folks who are willing to pick it up?
Well, yes. I mean, liquidity is out there for investors who want to buy into the stock. So yes, I mean, for the big players, you have Dangsem, you have Waco. These are very liquid stocks that you can take position.
Look at what Lafarge Africa has been buffeted over the last few years. Now the company's made a couple of announcements that they're coming back on the market. They're doing a rights issue. Lafarge Wholesome says, look, we're not going to dilute our rights. We're going to take the whole thing. That's from the majority shareholder in Lafarge Africa, listed on our market. What sense does that tell you about, one, the confidence in the market and outlook on Nigeria's economy from the industrial construction infrastructure point of view?
I think it's generally positive. It sort of shows that they have a positive outlook in the sense that they aren't willing to exit now. Instead, cement their position in the stock, and it's generally positive. We know that the company went through a tough time in 2016, churning out largely not so impressive results up until Q4 2016. So prior to that period, prior to the release of their reports, we saw how investors punished the stock, going from as high as about 100 naira thereabout down to about 45. And following the release of the result, we've seen some traction in that stock. So even in terms of looking at investors who want to take a short-term position in the industrial goods sector, looking at current pricing, WAPCO will probably even be the best opportunity for short-term investors because we still see a lot of potential for growth in the short term. Even with the pricing?
If I can't chase Dangote Cement at such a price, maybe I have enough cash to chase a stock like Lafarge.
Yes, so that's generally the ripple effect that we've been seeing, similar to the banking sector. So for investors who couldn't take advantage of some of the tier 1 stocks, we saw significant gains in some of the tier 2 counters, as there were some investors that were willing to take this up.
In terms of when you see industrial stocks move, And these are companies that are very large. And you can't discuss Lafarge, discuss CCNN, Dangote Cement without discussing the banks. Of course, these are the guys who put oil in the engine of the market. So one way or the other, you think this will trickle into the banks as well, because they are the big boys who bring in the big money.
Well, yes. I mean, increased flows into the market, financing some of these operations. So it's also going to be, generally, it's going to be positive for majority of the sectors as a whole.
Yeah, again, because insurance folks will also have some benefits there, because if you're going to construct massively rails, roads, and whatever, you need to insure all the assets. So premium will also go higher. It's a good time to be in business if this really go as planned. But let's leave it there for today. And it's good to have you to start the new business week with us. Wilson. Thank you, Ramosele Aziba, who is one of the investment analysts at Afrinvest. Talk about the big 7 oil and gas companies in our market, most of them, the retailers. This was how they finished off on Friday, and we came to that negative. Oops. Okay. You find the big boys there. 40 Oil will be starting today around that figure, 55.58. Mobil lost about 0.3% to 264.1. And if you flip that over, you see Owando, the major loser on Friday, 369. 836 hasn't been able to get his double digit back since that was lost last year. Seplat sitting on change at 460, still chewing over the return of Focado's oil export terminal. And that's one stock folks are looking at very closely. And of course, Total down 4.07%. Perhaps the mood for the oil and gas stock was spoiled by the acting president, Professor Mio Shibajo, when he says before the end of last week that there is no full deregulation in the downstream sector, that the government will continue to midwife that space. And the second day, that space of the market took a beating. We'll be back after the break. We'll talk about brand management for brand premiers.